Hello and welcome to Finance with Axel. Today we will again talk about the Terra ecosystem. I was looking even more thoroughly into Luna and UST, and unfortunately I have to tell you that I came to the conclusion that it's almost definitely a Ponzi scheme and that it will collapse sooner or later. UST is an algorithmic stablecoin. I have already explained the stability mechanism in a previous video. I will still explain it again briefly to bring all viewers up to the same level. Unlike other stablecoins, UST has no collateral deposited to secure the peg, so that one UST is always $1. Instead, UST maintains its stablecoin's equilibrium in a different way. Terra mints and burns tokens while also incentivizing arbitrage. Terra has a well thought out, not so easy to understand mechanism which so far stabilized the value of UST. When the value of UST is smaller or higher than $1, the Terra community is incentivized to re-establish the peg and price of $1 per UST. The incentive is given via arbitrage or profits for the people maintaining the peg. If UST is over $1, you can easily regain peg by just making more of it. That's exactly what is done. The extra token go to the arbitrageur securing the system. It is always possible to exchange $1 worth of Luna for 1 UST. By doing what the Terra Foundation wants them to do, the arbitrageur makes a small but very important profit. Their system works in a very similar fashion when the price of UST is below $1. The stabilization mechanism allows to exchange UST for $1 worth of Luna always. By making this trade, if UST is worth less than $1, again, a very small but very important profit can be made. This process reduces the supply and thus ensures that the price rises again and the peg is regained. At first glance, this mechanism seems to be functional and well thought out. But if you take a closer look, the whole system only works if the arbitrageur believes that 1 UST is worth exactly $1. But why should this be the case? Should we blindly trust Terra when it claims UST is worth 1 USD, even though the coin is backed by thin air only? Nothing at all. Only the trust of participants in the Terra ecosystem keeps that thing stable at the moment. Why is Luna so successful and why did it work out for so long? The explanation is quite simple and called Anchor. Introducing the Anchor protocol. Anchor is a lending protocol on Luna ecosystem. This protocol offers an interest rate that is well above usual market rate, currently about 20%. That's also the reason why UST supply is constantly expanding. High yield have attracted a lot of users and funds, while many of the participants apparently do not see the inherent risks. Let's dive deeper. Where does these about 20% come from? Anchor has two sources of income. First, the low interest rate paid by the borrower. Second, the staking reward from the provided collateral assets. According to stakingrewards.com, the staking yields are ranging from 4% for Ethereum and can go up to 16% for Atom. Now the question is the income sufficient to pay the astonishing yield? And the answer, unfortunately, is hell no. The borrowing market is way less utilized than the earn product. The TVL for earn is about 13.7 billion compared to only 5.9 billion in the borrow market, of which only 3 billion have been lent out. On a side note, sorry if the numbers are slightly inconsistent. This is because some of the calculations and screenshots were made on different days, but this makes no difference for the bigger picture. From the borrowed assets, Anchor receives about 359 million yearly income. On top of that, they also earn staking rewards, which will not be delivered back to the borrowers. In total, they make 771 million yearly. Unfortunately, the spending is way more severe. Paying the yield currently costs 2.57 billion. If Anchor were to operate economically, they could offer an annual return of 6%. Instead, they offer more than 3 times as much. This obviously can't be sustained in the long run. Where is the rest of the money coming from? The remaining RPR is paid by the Anchor reserves, meaning that the Terra Foundation is paying. The days until Anchor runs out of reserves are about 40. This is not taking into account that the growth of UST deposits greatly exceeds the growth of borrowing. If the spending continues to get out of hand, while the income will remain stagnant or grow much slower, anchor will run out of money even faster. So what do we learn by now? We learned that the current anchor yield is highly unsustainable. What can be done about it? There are two sustainable possibilities. Anchor must generate more income in order to be able to pay the depositors. I don't see this happening anytime soon, and that only leaves us with second two, and that's lowering the interest rate. Not to forget about the third option, the Luna Foundation could also increase the reserves and buy Anchor more time. This was a solution used in the past. By now, it should be clear that this system is very fragile, and at some point, the reduction in interest rate can no longer be postponed. At the latest then, it will have very serious consequences for Terra. I will now explain these effects. UST and Terra will go down. Once either Anchor runs out of reserves or the RPR or annual percentage rate is substantially reduced, Terra will end up in a death spiral. Other triggers are also conceivable for the start of the death spiral. For example, if Do Kwon, the guru-like founder, gets arrested, quits, dies, or something happens to him, another stumbling stone could be when investors lose trust. One more reason could be all the copycats out there, which essentially copy the Terra model and sometimes promise even higher returns. Especially USDD must be named. Their plan is to offer 30% APY and a 10 billion yield reserve. This could lead to selling pressure for UST as people will move on to the next big Ponzi, which promises even greater returns. Whatever the trigger will be, there will definitely be an oversupply of UST, which will ultimately result in a death spiral for UST and Luna, with the result that both will inevitably go to zero. Once UST de-anchors from $1 and people panic sell, arbitrageurs will also lose confidence in the pack and the ecosystem in general and stop participating in the arbitrage. This will cause the whole thing to collapse. Let's finish with some final thoughts. Terra is a very well thought out Ponzi scheme. They pulled one magic trick after another. At the start, they managed to make people trust a system backed by thin air. The Ponzi started with Terra using Anchor's astonishingly high yield to attract money to Terra, which expanded demand for UST and pushed up Luna's price as well. Then the Luna Foundation paid for the yields Anchor can't afford with pumped Luna. It blows my mind that this system has been working so well for so long and that Terra continues to expand even as I make this video. I am very confident that the days of Terra are numbered and the whole thing will not go well in the end. Let me know what you think. I'm always open to new and also contrary arguments, as long as they make sense. So go fuck yourself is not a valid argument. Are you invested in Luna and UST and will you remain involved after this video? Let me also know in the comments. This was it for today. Please share this content with someone who might also benefit from this. Please like for the YouTube algorithm. Please also consider to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my future videos. Be careful in the world of crypto. Thanks for watching. Bye.